Hey guys, Bike here, and I'm back again with another Last Epoch video. And this one's going to be a little bit different. You could probably already tell. This is, I promised you guys a build guide for the Bleed Hail of Arrows Marksman. It's a mouthful, that's why I had to say it slowly. But I've been doing some reflecting on this particular build that I was playing, and I actually don't feel comfortable putting out a build guide. Now, I'm going to have some gameplay here in a second and kind of go over it. I'll go over the items and stuff that I have, but overall I wanted to share my thoughts on playing this character and why I'm not doing a full-on build guide per se. But down in the description down below, there's the loot filter that I put together. There's a link to the planner, and like I said, we'll go over the items. But I wanted to kind of discuss it's not anything about the game in particular. It's just about the character that I played, maybe the identity of the class. I felt like I didn't do my due diligence on the character, on the class, trying to put together something that was fun, effective, and doable. You'll see in the items that this character is kind of loaded in regard to some of the uniques, and here I am doing 500 corruption and kind of running away. So by the way, let's get that gameplay running right now. So in the gameplay, this was taken at 500 corruption. I'm like level 95, and I will admit I don't have the best knowledge of the character or the class. I followed Dread's Bleed Hail of Arrows guide that he put out in cycle 1.17. And so link to his work down below as well. I followed the planner, I put together my own loot filter. And after I got to a certain point, I just felt like, at least in this season, I don't know if Dread felt the same way. I haven't tried reaching out to him about this, but I just felt like I was running out of damage. And it also feels like every marksman, or at least every rogue build, takes smoke bomb. So I wanted to try doing a build that did not take smoke bomb. And honestly, I think I was able to make it work without smoke bomb here and get a little extra damage. But ultimately, this build just felt kind of meh overall. And this isn't an indictment of Dread's work or anything like that. I fully willing, able to admit that there might be skill issue here in regards to this guy. I'm pointing at myself right now. I know we got gameplay going on, but overall I felt like it wasn't the same. I think some of the issues I have is with some of the rogues' defensive layering. Depending on dodge, I've always never liked dodge as a defensive mechanic because it's a catch-22, right? Dodge is either so good if you have 100%. If you had 100% chance to dodge, it'd be OP. It'd be absolutely broken. The only thing you would have to build for is dots, right? You would dodge every hit. There's no question. It's too powerful. You can't have 100% dodge. But then the catch 22 is, well, if you invest so much into dodge and you get to that 85% cap of dodge, well, you're probably not taking some other defensive layers. So what happens when you actually take a hit? You have an 85% chance to dodge, but there's also a 15% chance that you might get hit if you get max. And what's going to happen then if you don't have your armor, your damage reduction, that sort of thing. So this build was kind of a happy medium. I used the boots, the foot of the mountain boots, to give myself some to convert my dodge rating into endurance threshold so I can take some more hits. We're running double red ring, right? For that one, it was twofold. I wanted to take care of my resistances, but also, I mean, come on, it's red ring. There's a lot of damage reduction there. That's something I feel like a lot of people are not going to be able to really use, so to speak. I don't think a lot of people have double red ring with attributes on it, no less. Now these red rings I have, being Sentinel guy, they have strength. Obviously, we would have preferred dexterity for this particular build, but I'm not that rich. I don't have that many red rains laying around, but I had 2 pretty good rolled red rains with 16 strength each. That helps towards the attribute total to get your damage reduction. And yeah, I think overall, my experience with the build, it was fun leveling. But once I started trying to push corruption to a certain bit, I felt like I was getting squashed at places. My chat also kind of felt that that was the typical rogue experience, that you'll just get one shot out of nowhere. I had some how do I say, more educated voices also chime in with some thoughts and opinions. I think the thought that I wasn't using smoke bomb was also, a lot of people were like, hey man, you should use smoke bomb, you should try and use smoke bomb. So I will admit, smoke bomb would probably make this build feel a little bit better, but then I'd be lacking damage. And so I don't know if it's just the bleed on the hail of arrows mechanic, or the I don't know. There's just something about it. Maybe I'm just so used to the bleed hammers and I know what to expect from there, that I just was not getting the results I expected to get with this particular setup. And I think that might be leading to some of my issues I had. If you guys have been here before, you already know I play a ton of Sentinel. So when I'm playing another class, it can feel weird. It could also be kind of cool, like, oh wow, look what they can do, like the tornado werebear last build that we did. That was a lot of fun. This one, I've never played a marksman before, so this one, not so much. I think I'll revisit the build again sometime, obviously with more realistic stuff, maybe with some more knowledge on my hand, play the class a little bit more. I never played a marksman, and I kind of slapped some of my own stuff together near the end. Yeah, so anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the game and take a look at what I did. I'm going to try and keep this video short. Like I said, this is less of a build guide or even a build guide review. This is just more of a, here's what I did, here's my thoughts on it, which I kind of just went over. And let's go ahead and take a look at the items. Let's go. All right, here we are in game. So let's go ahead and take, well, here, let me do my normal demonstration first, and we'll go from there. So the way we have shift set up, right? I have a nihilist, so we're getting a +2 to all skills, so I got 22 and everything. So the way I got shift set up is whenever we shift, our next ability that we use, in this case, for the most part, is going to be Hail of Arrows. It's going to be doing a lot of extra damage. It really helps the build work. One recommendation I kept getting is, well, what if you drop shift for Smoke Bomb and use Smoke Bomb as a traversal? The thing is, yes, shift is a little bit of a traversal, but we've reduced the distance by so much that it feels more like a second evade. Right, it's a little bit longer than that, but for the most part, we're just using shift to really boost our next thing. If you guys remember the stab and drag rogue that we did, it kind of feels like this. That's what we're going for. So here's an enemy over here. You use Dark Quiver, try and pick up a couple arrows. Shift, boom. There you go. Hit them with your best shot right here, and then shift, boom. If it's a single target like this, we currently have charges on our Heartseeker. And then we can do that. Hit them with that. Shift, boom, 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 boom. Go with that. Bring the Dark Quiver out every once in a while. Think of Dark Quiver if you played Sentinel in any other season except this one. Think of Dark Quiver as kind of like Volatile Reversal. It gives us a lot of damage. And boom, I just like to try and hit it every once in a while. Boom, go, go, go. And there we go. So that is the essence of the build. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the gear. One thing you're going to notice is anything that's a unique on this build is going to actually look pretty decent, except for maybe like Sanguine Horde, right? Everything on here is going to look pretty freaking decent because I could also use it on set. No, let's be real. So let's go over the Exalteds in that case. So for this, since we're focusing on the bleed damage, I wanted chance to inflict bleed, just more bleed stacks. Chance to slow on hit, critical strike multiplier. The lightning damage does nothing for us. But I think the obsidian bow is probably, after looking at the bows, this one is probably the best in slot just because of that huge, potentially 100% physical damage implicit that you could get. If you can get increased physical or damage over time, critical strike multiplier, and you might be wondering about that. We'll go over it in a second. And increased physical damage, it can really go a long way. I highly recommend the obsidian bow. As for the chest piece, I didn't really get a lot of good gear. As you can tell, this is kind of mediocre. We also got 23 vitality. Obviously, we would prefer 23 or 24 dexterity. So flip it. I didn't have enough forging potential to do that. I think the warm hide coat is pretty decent. You get the increased dodge rating. You get the increased damage over time. We got some low rolls on the implicits. Essentially, I was just trying to feed the red rains here. I was trying to feed the red rains. So that's why I went for the warm hide. I don't really know what would be a good coat to pick out. If we go over here into the loot filter and take a look at the different items that are available. So body armor. And then we go over to the rogue. Typically, you find some pretty good ones down here. So I have warm hide. This is pretty good. Dragon hide could be pretty good too with that critical strike avoidance. If you get one of these, you could also then take the blessing potentially to get 100% critical strike avoidance. The reason why I didn't take that blessing, we'll go over that in a little bit. So this could also be a good pickup. And then Gorgon scale, you get the 255 armor, chance to receive a glancing blow. I think this was pretty good. Overall, I think these three are probably your best that you can go for. There's also something like the Elite Regalia if you want that endurance. Yeah, so for the most part, I think these ones could potentially be the kind of body armors to go for. Whatever suits your boat or whatever you have. In this case, I even though I did a few prophecies, I didn't get a lot of Exalteds. Unfortunately, a lot of Exalteds that I liked. So same story with the helmet. I actually do think the Blood Visage helmet is probably one of your best in slots. There's a couple more here. If we go back to the good old fashioned add rule, so item type, let's go over to helmet. And if we go over here to rogue, if we look at available helmets, so there's something like the Gorgon scale, right? You get the increased cooldown recovery. You get the increased stun chance. This is fine. Dragon Visage could also be very good as well with critical strike multiplier as well as fire resistance. But I think Blood Visage is the way to go. With that increased damage over time and that increased bleed duration, that I think could be the way to go. Also, Pinnacle Helm with that damage leashes health, especially only requiring level 60. This could be a good pickup. Also, Horned Helm could be a good early pickup with increased damage, that sort of thing. Just like to point those out. But I do think Blood Visage is the way to go. I think this helmet would have been even better if we were able to flip the rolls again. So T7 Dex, T5 Vitality, increase health. Could also go for dodge rating potentially, but honestly, what I've been doing with the dodge rating, I have a 32%, but when I stop moving with these boots, we get the dodge rating gets converted to endurance threshold. So this is one potential defensive layer. So yeah, those are the Exalteds. Let's go ahead and talk about the uniques real quick. Nihilus, I do think Nihilus is pretty good in this slot. I don't know if there would be a better one, But Nihilist comes with the increased health, increased movement speed, increased mana. I have T7 critical strike multiplier on here, +2 to all skills, 13% to all res, 4 seconds of frenzy when we evade. That's also a really good pickup. I think Nihilist is a great fit for this build. Sanguine Horde, there's a lot of synergy here. It's a nomad quiver, so we get a nice implicit chance to bleed. I was able to get increased physical damage, chance to bleed on hit, and chance to blind on hit. This is my only source of critical strike avoidance. So again, that could be another skill issue part. You know, I'm running around with, you know, my only source of critical strike avoidance being chance to blind on hit. But I was making it work. So right now, Sanguine Horde is pulling some double duty for us. Here's the thing, though. This is where my inexperience with the rogue class comes in. Chance to inflict bleed on hit I got as a T6. Here's the thing. I didn't realize you could put dexterity on a quiver. I probably would have gone with like a T7 dex on a quiver had I known that. But alas, I didn't. I messed up on that. So you would probably want to go T7 dex on a Sanguine Horde quiver. But let's talk about Sanguine Horde real quick. We get chance to inflict bleed on hit gained as bleed chance per second with Hail of Arrows. So when we're using Hail of Arrows, all of our chance to bleed on hit just becomes bleed per second, just the way that Hail of Arrows works. It just, you know, rains the arrows down. Only for Hail of Arrows. Everything else still goes off of bleed chance. Increased bow attack speed, 2% of damage over time, leeches health. This is really good. Health, mana, and then lower mana costs on Hail of Arrows. Let's talk about this belt. The belt, for the most part, it's a spider silk belt. I really like that. I went for health, cleanse, cooldown, recovery speed. You could go for dodge rating as well here. I feel like I've already made my opinions clear on dodge rating. I got just enough to where when I stop moving, look, we have 1,125, stop moving, 1,800, right? With Foot of the Mountain. So, but that is also something that you can go for right here. But Elikos, it's a spider silk belt. You get a lot of poison resistance, cold resistance. And then we also get critical strike chance on the belt, right? Not critical strike chance is okay, but we're mostly looking for critical strike multiplier. I think I have a couple of these that are 3 LP. You can find one of these just fine. Red Reins, I already mentioned these. You get the all res, you get the all attributes, and then if you have at least 180 total attributes, you get 10% damage reduction. You can have 2 of them. So right now, these ones, I set them up when I was playing other builds that were not dexterity based, so to speak. So this is fine, though. They're still attributes. They help. We have a decent amount of armor as a rogue, but I would have preferred dexterity in that case. Salt the Wounds. If you've never seen this before, I've used this in a number of bleed builds. I really like it. We convert 40% of our critical strike multiplier over to Fizz Pin. So one thing I messed up on in the past with Salt the Wound is it also converts a portion of your critical strike multiplier to Poison Pen. So when we take this off, let me move my face real quick because this was a point of not necessarily contention, but discussion. So also add 26% because that's how much critical strike multiplier we get from Salt the Wounds. But when we put it on, if I can draw your attention to right here. So when we put on Salt the Wound, you'll notice that we drop to 224%. And what this is doing is it's converting our added critical strike multiplier to physical pen and poison pen. I would always miss this in the past whenever I was discussing the Paladin Bleed Hammer version. So right now we have 418%. So let's do some real quick math here. So we have 418%. We have 200 base, right? So that's 218% added critical strike multiplier. Now we're going to convert 40% of that to physical penetration with bleed. So what we're going to do is we're going to times it by 0.4. Oh, oops. Let me take that back. Times 0.4. So our physical pen with bleed is 87.2. What I used to do in the past is I would look at this right here, this critical strike multiplier, and see, okay, 418, put this on, look, 224. So then what I would do, 418, 418 minus 224, that's 194 physical pen with that's 194 physical pen with bleed. No, because you got to remember 50% of the added number is also being converted to poison pen. So yeah, 87 pen with the bleed. That is the true number. So that's why we're going for critical strike multiplier on our gear here to try and get that up, get more of that physical pen. I really like Salt the Wound, but if you need more defense, you can go for Eternal Gauntlets. Foot of the Mountain, I needed the all attributes. I've already said it a couple times. We convert our dodge rating into endurance threshold when we stand still, so this can help us take a hit. One thing I've had happen a lot is I'll get stunned a decent amount with this character and then I'm dead. So if I get stunned and then I stand still, higher endurance threshold, hopefully I can survive that along with the red rains. I have noticed that it has worked. Valdir's Chalice, chance to inflict bleed duration, physical damage over time, damage, leached his health. This goes hand in hand with the Sanguine Horde. And then 20 health gained on kill per stack of bleed on the target. This one works out very well. So yeah, guys, that is the gear. That's what I mostly wanted to go over. This is what I'm using right now. You could also use, what's the name of that boots? Blood of the Exile is very good, especially if you're not going for like Red Ring like I am. Blood of the Exile is pretty good. One nice thing about Foot of the Mountain is you get a lot of endurance out of it. So Foot of the Mountain could be very good in that regard. When it comes to idols, there's not much to discuss here. It's just all, whatever I need to be made up for in terms of resistances. I don't have the grit. My one actual halfway decent idol, class idol, I got one. It doesn't really have a good slam on it. I kind of just stopped doing tombs. That's where I noticed personally, kind of going back to some more of my discussion on the class as a whole. That's where I noticed myself struggling the most. Was we would go into a tomb, or I would go into a tomb, and then it's just like everything would get so much stronger. Possessed enemies, possessed champions, forget it, man. That's why I started rocking Heartseeker. That's why I dropped Smoke Bomb. I just run, bam, 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 trying to get as much single target as possible onto them. So I would use Heartseeker because the Hail of Arrows, it's good, but I need a little bit more on the nose damage, and that's why I started using Heartseeker as opposed to Smoke Bomb. And that's, I know I probably should have put this in the intro, but it doesn't matter. If you've watched the full video, you've heard my full thoughts on the matter. And yeah, this is kind of the thing. I think that's the theme of everything. I tried to squeeze as much damage into this as possible. No, there's more ways. Obviously, I sacrificed a bunch to try and make the red rings work so I could take a hit. But a lot of my choices were fueled by trying to find damage. So yeah, we can go over the skills real quick. I'm also trying to follow what Dread did here. Obviously, he didn't cover Heartseeker because that didn't exist last season, but putting the points here, Effervescent Toxin, highly recommend you try and get this one. This increases the damage over time that the enemies take, 12% increase. Go for that one. Shift, we use this over here to just juice our next ability. I really like this tech right here. Dark Quiver, Same thing. We're creating shadows. We're getting a lot of extra damage here. I really like the way that's working. Heartseeker, I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do on my own. I think this was a good setup. There's an obvious. I feel like this is a bit of a bait. There's an obvious. There's an obvious synergy. There we go. That's the word. Where where based off how many recurves your Heartseeker does, that means how many times it goes back and forth. It increases the duration. There we go. It increases the duration of Hail of Arrows. So the idea here might be, oh, well, go towards an enemy, hit them, recurve a bunch of times, and then you increase the duration of your Hail of Arrows. The reason why I don't think this is good is because for the most part, the enemies move, they might be dead, and it feels kind of wasted, and it's not going to increase your damage. It just increases your duration, and I feel most of the time you're already casting it again, right? Like, it's still going, and bam, there we go. It's still going. So I felt like that was a bit of a bait personally. You're going to be able to cast it again in no time. Like I said, it doesn't increase the damage. I'm hitting every button except the one I need to, so I don't think this is a good pickup. I do think Nimble Threads, Relentless Volley. I didn't go for Fletcher's because, again, another resurgent, another how do we say, another synergy, but I just found myself never needing to be using the Heartseeker that many times. So one reason why we give charges to Heartseeker is Arrow of Ravager. The recurve chance and the 50% more damage is huge. This is what helps our damage increase by a good amount. So I think this and the 2 charges are absolutely worth it. I don't think we need Fletcher's Resurgence that much. Coming over here to Swift and Sure, 4 points on Heartrender. Try and get that bleed chance and physical pen. Seeping Wounds for the increased damage over time. Make it stack on the target. And then the Red Veil gives us some Crimson Shroud. Crimson Shroud is a buff that gives us 50% increased bleed chance, and we take 5% less damage over time for 4 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times. So that can be 150% bleed chance. And then against all odds, so the skill cannot be dodged. I set up Hail of Arrows very similarly. Increase the duration. I feel like this 30% duration is enough. And then the Tear Flesh bleed chance, I think this 200% is good. And as for the skills, I followed what Dread did here pretty much for the most part. 5 points, 5 points. Grab Agility for the haste on hit chance, 4 points in Sapping Strikes, and 8 points in Coated Blades. This is actually a lot of damage. Yes, the mana increases kind of suck, but the huge amount of damage is what matters. I didn't go for Disembowel. I don't think this is I don't think we need that much bleed chance, but you could try it out if you wanted. For Marksman, for Falconer, I put 5 and 5 just for a little extra endurance threshold. I mean, 15%, that's pretty huge of your maximum health. I didn't put any points in the Blade Dancer, but I felt like Cloak of Shadows could be a good pickup. If you wanted to, you could invest into Apostasy. And then the rest of the points goes here. 5 points in Draining Arrows. I think I'm going to put the rest of my points into this part of the tree. 10 points into Prolonged Demise. Increased damage over time. More damage. 70% more damage while wielding a bow. I put 10 points into Barbed Arrows. 1 point into Arrow Storm. 1 point into Covering Fire. 10 points into Thief's Quiver. 10 points. 5 points. 5 points. I don't really think there's anything else that I'd want to invest into here on this side of the tree. All right, guys, those are my thoughts on Marksman. Also, a quick look over at what I did here. Like I said, all that information is available in the description down below. Feel free to check it out. If you like what I do here, if you like this different approach, sound off in the comments, possibly leave a like, possibly subscribe if you made it to the end of the video and you like what I do here. Season 3 is right around the corner, and I'm looking forward to playing Sentinel again. And so that's going to be what we're doing now, preparing for Season 3. Coming out in like 2 weeks from now. Anyway, you guys take care. Peace out.